YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL offseason content. We got a lot on the channel already, a lot more to come. A mock draft went up yesterday, a brand new one. But this video, NFL offseason trade candidates. So taking 17 big names that could pop up as potential trade candidates this offseason. Some of these guys are already candidates. We have already heard their names, but I think a lot more guys like the ones we're going to talk about in this video could pop up because teams are looking to clear space. A lot of teams in bad situations in terms of cap situations, and then teams looking to rebuild. So some of these names could pop up here. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about their trade value, how much space their team will clear by trading them, and then potential fits. A lot of videos like this already up, a lot more to come, so really excited about this here. Follow our Twitter for instant NFL talk when news breaks, everything, talking during live games. You guys will vote for a fan-voted mock draft and much more, so check that out. Check out the side of the app. You can talk football and win Amazon gift cards. Any link that you need, description and comments. And again, full NFL coverage. We got more NFL content than anybody, so please subscribe. Be much appreciated. Yeah, check out that Twitter. Currently, you guys are voting for who wins the Super Bowl, and that fan vote will be used in our Super Bowl pick'ems. Only 2 hours left on that. Chiefs leading the way, so check it out. But let's talk about the obvious ones. Let's get Deshaun Watson out of the way because we already know about this one. But the value should be around 3 first-round picks from what I've heard. If it's going to be a team that doesn't have a top 10 pick, it would probably take more than that, or the Texans just wouldn't accept the deal. The Texans actually lose $5.6 million by trading Deshaun Watson, so they actually go. They're already in the negative, and they actually go further down. So that that hurts a little bit. You lose your franchise piece, a great quarterback, and $5.6 million gone just like that, just for a year though. But then the upside would be you get a load of picks. So I put, in terms of fits, and we can list every team because almost every team will probably be interested in Deshaun Watson. But the Jets, Dolphins, and Panthers, they have top 10 picks. They have had interest. The Panthers are a team specifically that we've known that actually has called the Texans about it already. But yeah, these teams have the appealing pick. They can make it work. With Deshaun Watson in terms of their cap situation. So yeah, we'll get the Deshaun Watson and we'll get Matthew Stafford out of the way here because we already know about this one as well. The value's kind of up in the air. He could take an early to mid first round pick, Could it be top 10? You start talking about the Broncos at 9. Is it a possibility? We really don't know. I think there's a possibility. Or maybe 2 first-round picks if it's a team like the Colts that are kind of further back, 21st overall. Other teams picking higher might be throwing their pick in, like the Patriots, like Washington. So the Colts might have to offer a bit more. There might be a bidding war. Would I trade an early first or 2 first-round picks for Matt Stafford? I think he's good, but probably not. But that's what I think the value is when it's all said and done. So this is not what I would trade. I think around this range is what teams will trade. There could become a bidding war, like I said. The Lions save $14 million if they trade Matthew Stafford, so that's quite a bit for them. The team are going to be in rebuild mode. If you talk about the Patriots, the Colts, Washington, Broncos, I got a video for this scenario, this situation, just alone, just for Stafford. I have one for Deshaun Watson too, so you guys go to the channel, click videos, and you can find them. There's all kinds of good content on there. But let's move on to Sam Darnold. This one's kind of been brought up a little bit. I would not trade a 4th-round pick for Darnold, but I think that's what he could go for. The Jets might be able to get a 4th, maybe a 5th for him, maybe a 5th plus some other things, future 5th, a 6th perhaps. The Jets would save $4.7 million trading him. Not a whole bunch, but it's something. Colts kind of been brought up a little bit. The Lions, maybe they would rather grab him than taking quarterback 7th overall, perhaps. And then the Panthers, you see they're still looking for a quarterback. It's a team that could actually win. It's not like they're in rebuild mode. They could actually win sometime in the near future. So maybe they don't want to restart with a young quarterback. Maybe that's why they're in on Deshaun Watson. And if they can't hit on that, maybe I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying maybe this is where they turn their attention to. So we'll see. We got a bunch of quarterbacks here. What other quarterbacks could pop up? Jimmy Garoppolo's name has been thrown out there a little bit. The 49ers could cut him and save that same amount of money, $23.4 million. That's a lot of money to be saved there with Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think he could be traded. I still think he's got some value. Could get a 2nd-round pick, maybe a 3rd, and a 4th, 3rd, and a 5th, somewhere around that range to kind of equal that. But quarterbacks that have experience, that are solid, remember he just got to the Super Bowl a year ago, they rarely become available. So that's why, some people, a lot of people don't like Garoppolo, but people may not be happy with that value, but just how it is, it's a quarterback, experienced quarterback. And again, I don't think I would trade a second round pick for him. I'm just saying that's what I think the value would be at. The 49ers, that is, would save a whole bunch of money. We're going to see the same teams pop up because these teams, need quarterbacks. We're going to talk about more than just quarterbacks, but these teams have the cap space as well. The Colts, he could end up back on the Patriots, and the Bears would be interested. They would have to clear some space. The Bears are definitely in the quarterback market, and Washington football team would be interested as well. A lot of those teams are maybe a Garoppolo away from being a lot better, compared to where they were last year. And the Colts were a team that were pretty damn good, too, and Garoppolo actually could make them better. So we'll see. But we know those teams are in the quarterback market there. See if they're players in a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. It's another quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, actually can become available. Value around a fourth-round pick. I think there's a team that would like him. Maybe as a, maybe to win now, maybe as a bridge quarterback. Fourth round's not tremendous value for a starting quarterback with experience. That's just kind of getting back, in his groove here, even though he did struggle down to the end of the season, the second half of the season there. The Panthers would save $13 million. Washington and the Bears popped up. I think those teams that would be interested in him that also need a quarterback. I threw the Texans in here too because we know the Panthers have called the Texans about Deshaun Watson. Doesn't mean something's going to get done. But if they do make a deal, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater may be going to Houston in that deal. So that's why I threw the Texans in there. The Panthers would like to, do this if they have an opportunity to grab their quarterback. If there's really no opportunity, then maybe they would like to hang on to Bridgewater. It would help them clear some space. After this next year, though, Bridgewater's contract is pretty good, where if it doesn't work out, you can actually save a bunch of money cutting him or trading him again. But, it'll be a bit of a cap hit this upcoming year, but $13 million is what the Panthers would save. We'll see if that his name pops up. Another one. How about Jared Goff? I'm surprised no one's really brought that up yet. The Rams may feel like they're a quarterback away from maybe winning the Super Bowl because they've had some pretty good teams, and Goff has been hot and cold, very inconsistent. There's times where you see glimpses of, okay, this is that first overall pick, Jared Goff, and then there's some times where he kind of just turns the ball over and almost blows the game. So maybe the Rams just want to start looking. They don't have a first-round pick. Maybe they want to start looking for the guy of the future or maybe somebody better, somebody that's just more of a fit, honestly. So that's a possibility. I think second-round pick, kind of like Garoppolo. Goff is still, young. The contract, it's a bit pricey, but, as soon as we get further along in the future, there's not a lot of dead money there, dead cap. So teams could cut him and save money if they have to, but you're not trading for him. Just think about cutting him in the future. The Rams would save $12.4 million. I would like the Colts for him. I would rather the Colts go for a guy like Goff and over Stafford, honestly. I think Stafford's better right now. But again, for the Colts to land Stafford, I don't know if the 21st pick would do it. I also think other teams could offer more and beat them. They may have to offer 2 first-round picks or something close, the 21st pick and something else pretty valuable. I would rather them trade a second. I would rather them trade the 21st pick for Goff than 2 first-round picks for Stafford. I think it can work well in that Reich system. I really do. And with that offensive line, it's an upgrade from the Rams offensive line. So I would actually like that. The Patriots could think about it. Washington could think about it. But the only team that I really think, if you told me Goff was getting traded, I would really focus on the Colts there. And I'm surprised his name hasn't been brought up, a little bit more. There was actually something that just came out I saw on Twitter right before recording this that they didn't rule out, that how long Goff's going to be there, if he's going to be their guy. So maybe who knows? Maybe this will pop up here in the very near future, and it'll be very interesting. But yeah, interesting to see what his value is. Because remember, quarterbacks like this, it's rare for them to pop up as being available. So that's why the value kind of shoots up, And I think people give Goff a little more of a hard time than he's deserving, but he does need to pick it up a little bit, and he could be the reason holding the Rams back. It's a very good team. Marcus Mariota, I'm confident his name will come up because his cap hit's going to be $10.7 million for the Raiders, and they can clear all of that by cutting him or trading that. That's the good thing, but you don't want to keep around a backup quarterback with that much of a cap hit. I think they kind of set that up to, well, if he's that good, he'll be our starter, and we can move on from Carr, which I think is a very, very small possibility, but I wouldn't rule it out because Mariota did look pretty good when he was in, but they did put Carr back in. I'm I'm very confident that Carr's their guy. But that was the reason they set the contract up like that, and they knew they can, if he got in the field and showcase his talents, if he still got him, they could trade him. So they planned that out pretty well, I'd say. But they're not going to keep a backup quarterback, when they definitely need to clear space too. They're not going to keep one around with a $10.7 million cap hit as the backup again. So they look to trade him. If they can't trade him, they may cut him because, again, they're trying to clear that space. But I think somebody would like him. $10.7 million is pretty good for a quarterback. I mean, he went out there when Carr got hurt, and he looked pretty damn good. Is he going to go win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But I think he's a solid quarterback and probably better than quite a few starters right now. And they get a 4th-round pick out of him. I like the Bears. I like Washington football team, like the Panthers perhaps. They may view him as an upgrade there, especially with his mobility. They kind of like that from Teddy Bridgewater. You might get a little more speed here at Mariota. But the Bears really stand out to me because what was great about Mariota and him playing in Gruden's system, it was kind of that Gruden system, West Coast, saw some play action, which Mariota really, not really. You wouldn't really think that's Mariota's offense, but then Gruden was throwing some RPO in there as well, and it looked pretty good. It's small sample size this year, but you get a good mixture of things. And Nagy's still trying to run a little more of that RPO, that Nagy system, but they really tried to get the run game going, get the play action game going. So they saw a little bit more to feel confident about it. And I thought the Bears would be in on him last year, actually, but the Raiders, I think paid a little more than anybody would, with kind of a mystery of Marcus Mariota. Still is, but maybe a little less risk. Maybe they know more now. So I think those teams actually could be interested there. We'll see for Mariota. But again, he could be a cut candidate because the Raiders kind of need that space, and they can clear that full space there, $10.7 million. Speaking of the Raiders, Trent Brown, their right tackle, a stud of a right tackle, but he's been off the field a lot, with some injuries. And the Raiders are pretty far in the negative cap space-wise, but they have a lot of opportunities to clear space, to make those big moves, to get another pass rusher, add some other things, obviously. And they may view their offensive line, the offensive line's better with Trent Brown in there, obviously, but they may view themselves as having a pretty good offensive line even when I'm out, and he's been missing some games. So they may look to trade him and clear that $14 million in cap space. And it's rare that a very solid starting tackle becomes available. So teams, I think, would be willing to offer a 3rd-round pick. Would usually have more value because of the injuries, yeah. So I think teams like the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Seahawks probably have to clear a little bit of space there. But those teams looking for that right tackle definitely could be willing to. They can pay him. Again, the Seahawks need to clear some more space, but the other teams can pay him, and they can offer that pick there, and it'll be well worth it. So, and the Raiders, clear their space. I still view their offensive line as pretty solid, so could be a win-win situation there. We'll see if that name comes up. But, yeah, rarely do this many quarterbacks or tackles come up here. J.J. Watt, so we'll get back on the Texans players. We had Deshaun Watson, we have J.J. Watt. Now we got another one right after this as well. The Texans, who knows? They could be going rebuild mode. J.J. Watt's really not too happy with them not being able to win. If they keep Watson, then maybe more likely that Watt stays as well, because that means they're still in win now mode. But they have to recognize, can we win right now? J.J. Watt, is he going to be a part of the team still at his best when they're ready to win now? That's what they have to recognize there. And I said they should have traded him at the trade deadline. They didn't do that, obviously, and I'm saying again they should trade him. They get a 2nd and a 3rd-round pick, perhaps, because teams are dying to have a good pass rusher here. You see how important pass rush is. I mean, the Bucs just proved it in the NFC Championship game. So I think there's some teams that will be dying to have him for that. Texans can save that $17.5 million, so clear some more space, kind of get into the positive, stock up on those picks. Then the Jets, with Robert Saleh there, I think they could add somebody. They could add, in his Leo defense, they could add more of a 4-3-N than a guy that can stand off the ball. They could use both, so Watt would kind of be that 4-3-N type player. The Patriots need more pass rush. They have the cap space to make it happen. I think they're looking to add veteran pieces. The Browns, pair a guy like this opposite of Myles Garrett. The Browns really don't have that many needs on offense really at all. So focus on the defense, and adding a guy like this will upgrade their defense. Myles Garrett, J.J. Watt be something. I think the Bills need to clear some more space, obviously, but they have some ways they can do that. And they they got a pretty good defensive front, but it's a bunch of guys that get pressure. They need a guy that actually gets the quarterback. That's a big problem for them. They get pressure, a good amount of it, but when it's all said and done in the big games, you got to get to the actual quarterback. You got to hit him. You got to really make him, force him to make bad plays. So I think adding a guy like J.J. Watt and then moving on from some of the other guys to clear some space would be big time and make them go from the AFC Championship game maybe to the Super Bowl. That could be what they need there. So watch out for those 4 teams. Texans can't be stubborn with things like this, though. So we're staying on the Texans train here. But Whitney Merciless here. They gave him an interesting contract in the recent past here, and it was definitely interesting, maybe a little bit more, but he's still a pass rusher, and there's a limited amount of solid starting pass rushers that become available, especially so teams looking to get their hands on that. They probably can get a 4th round pick for him, maybe. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair because teams are looking for pass rushers. You're not going to be able to get a good pass rusher in the draft, around that range, 4th round. The Texans would save $7.3 million, so another opportunity to clear some more space and gather those draft picks that they desperately need. The Jets, we talked about J.J. Watt can kind of fit that end role. I think Merciless kind of can fit that standing up pass rusher role, which you kind of need both in Salah's scheme. The Ravens, their whole edge rusher group in their 3-4 are free agents. They could very well get some of those guys back. Maybe they'll like to have Merciless. That's a possibility there. The Giants, they could add some 3-4 pass rushers, and the Raiders looking to run that Gus Bradley scheme, which features a guy that has to play, a little bit, standing up a little more effective that way, and that could be Merciless as well. So, and they'll have to clear some space. I'm confident the Raiders will clear space. We kind of got that idea from some of these guys out here on this video, but yeah, those are some teams I view as fit for Merciless. Again, it's going to be interesting to see the direction the Texans go, whether they keep Watson or not. It's going to be interesting because I would still recommend they try to move guys like this, especially Watt. I really would recommend that. Moving on, more pass rushers. Packers pass rusher Preston Smith. They probably can get around a 3rd round pick. Maybe it's a 4th plus for him. The Packers would clear $8 million. The Packers are well into the negative cap space wise as well, and they have some key free agents for themselves, and they want to get better. They want to trade for Will Fuller. Do they want to be able to target a guy like that? Maybe a guy like Corey Davis in free agency. So trading a guy like this would help. Also, Rashawn Gary, the rookie from last year, is playing more and more and actually improving more and more. Last year, Preston Smith's a good player, definitely a good player. Yeah, I thought his stats last year were misleading. People were kind of getting on me on why he wasn't ranked higher. I thought a guy like Zadarius Smith, Kenny Clark kind of created for him. He's still a very good player, though, and I think there's some teams that'll be dying to have him for around a 3rd round pick. Seahawks. Which, again, I think Preston Smith can fit the 3-4 or the 4-3. Seahawks, the Jets, again, desperately need a pass rusher. The Titans desperately need one. I thought Preston Smith could end up on the Titans when he was a free agent a couple years ago. So that's interesting. Again, the Ravens, their whole group of free agent edge rushers, are free agents, so they could be looking at a guy like this, and they're not afraid to trade for a guy like this. And then the Colts. The Colts have Justin Houston as a free agent, and they could add another one even if they get Justin Houston back. So I think they'll be interested in a guy like Preston Smith as well. And they got a good amount of cap space, so that's why that team name keeps popping up here. Big-time pass rusher, Von Miller. He has a team option. The Broncos could look to pick that up or put it on another team for them to do, to take him in. There's some things going on with him, off the field, and I guess that could decide if he'll actually, I guess what his future holds. So we won't really comment on that. So that will sort itself out, I suppose. But he's getting up there in age, but I don't really see any reason to say he's declining. He did have the injury last year, but I think he would take a 1st round pick. Now, would you trade a 1st round pick for him? That's another debate, but I think that's what he would take. $19 million is the amount of money the Broncos could save. They have some cap space, but they have some big-time free agents of their own to re-sign, and they might want to get all of those guys back. And then while trading Von Miller, that could be ideal, and they can actually improve in other spots as well. Similar teams that pop up, Jets, Browns, Colts, Ravens, have some cap space and could use a pass rusher. I think Von Miller could fit either scheme, in my opinion. So that's a guy. It's a guy that I don't really expect to get traded, but it's a name that definitely could get brought up quite a bit here in the offseason. Teams would be interested. Teams would kind of the later. Remember the Jets have 2 first-round picks. They have a later one as well. So I'm not saying they're going to trade second overall pick with that. Teams with like kind of the later first and maybe would do it. I'm not saying for sure here. Next, Anthony Barr of the Vikings, who actually could be in some schemes a pass rusher. Remember, he was a pass rusher in UCLA out of college. I don't know how confident teams will be, though, because he is an off-the-ball linebacker so far every year in his career in the NFL for the Vikings. He didn't play last year, really. He was hurt. Got hurt very early. Vikings could save around $7.7 million. The angle for the Vikings here would be to re-sign a guy like Eric Wilson and play Wilson and Kendricks and trade Barr. $7.7 million saved for the Vikings. They're in negative cap space, so this would help them out quite a bit. I think the Browns could use them as an off-the-ball linebacker. I think Gus Bradley would like him kind of as that Leo player in the Raiders scheme. Same thing goes for the Jets scheme. The Eagles would have to clear a ton of space. I just put them here because they would jump on this in a second if they had the space. I think that's a team that would, not even hesitate to do something like this. Maybe would have a little more value. He's been known as a pretty damn good off-the-ball linebacker that can cover at a very high level, do multiple different things. But had that injury this last year. And maybe a risk to some teams because, does he fit? Can he still be a productive, if we need him to be a pass rusher at times? So I think around a 4th-round pick. And could be something, like I said, the Vikings look to move because they may want to re-sign Eric Wilson to take his spot. Next, Stephon Gilmore. His name got brought up at the trade deadline. It seemed like the Patriots didn't want to do it. And, at the end of the day, they may very well just extend him or let this year play out. But if they were to trade him this offseason, I think they would demand a 1st-round pick, and that could get the deal done. He's only a $9.5 million cap hit going into the Patriots saved $9.5 million, but he's not that much of a cap hit for the team that trades him going into this year, not as much as you would think. But then the problem is you would probably have to extend him. Are you trading for him for a rental, or are you trading for him to extend him? Big money for an aging corner that had some injuries, but he's still very, very good, one of the best in football. The Browns could afford to do this because they're just looking to add defense. The Colts, same thing. They need some corners. I think with the Colts, though, they run a lot of cover, too. Cornerbacks typically aren't the most important things in that defense, but this would help them out, maybe get them, because you don't want to go into another season running the same exact thing. So that could be something they're interested in. Titans, I brought them up a bit, quite a bit at the trade deadline because they could use a corner here. They may have to clear some space. But again, he's not going to be that much of a cap hit. And the Washington football team, they have the cap space. Will they trade the 19th overall pick, though? That's kind of the question there. But that defense is probably a cornerback away from being maybe elite going forward. So, but it's pretty young at the same time. So they go in that young direction, that youth direction. So I guess you can debate against that one as well. Moving on to the next big name, another cornerback, Joe Hayden. I think it probably be a later pick, 5th-round pick, because he's aging, declining a little bit. And, it's pretty pricey as well. The Steelers can save a whopping $12.6 million. It's also why he could be a cut candidate because they just may want to, do they want to pay that much money? Do they want to have that much money sit around there when they can save it for a cornerback like that? There's a lot of teams that could be interested, teams that need a corner, teams that can afford to pay him, and that they, and again, because they'd be on the cheaper side as well. So some similar teams pop up. We'll add the Cowboys. The reason the Cowboys weren't for Gilmore because they have kind of a higher pick. Would they trade that higher 1st-round pick? And kind of the same thing for the Cardinals there. And do they have the cap? They probably have just enough there, and they probably can clear some more. But, so some more teams could be interested in this just because it's cheaper in terms of the draft pick you have to send off. And then next, Zach Ertz. I almost can guarantee his name will pop up. I'm not going to guarantee he'll be traded, but his name will pop up. The Eagles are in a cap space hell situation. They don't save a whole bunch here, $4.7 million, but they're not just going to cut a guy like this. They could get a 3rd-round pick as well. Look to build this team up. They do have Dallas Goedert, but Ertz, is obviously better. He seemed pretty upset after that last game. It's almost like, and that wasn't a game that could help them get in the playoffs. They knew they were out going in it, so I thought that was interesting. The Patriots. Still looking for that tight end. They missed Gronk for so long here. The Jets, bringing in, they bring in the 49ers tree. LaFleur going to be the offense coordinator. They know how important a big-time tight end is. The Bills, I do like Dawson Knox, but you got to make this offense as explosive as you can. And adding a guy like this that kind of can compete with that Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, I think can just upgrade that offense even more because basically they're competing with the Chiefs right now. And the Colts, this one's kind of on the fence because I think they would like him. I think they would view him as a big-time fit. Obviously, Frank Reich coming from the Eagles. They do have a pretty good tight end room that end up stepping up. Even a guy like Trey Burton, Mo Alley Cox, those guys were very, very solid there, and they have Doyle as well if they get him, if they bring that trio back. But so that's why maybe a little unlikely, but it'd be an upgrade. It'd be an upgrade there. So it's definitely the guy to look out for there. It just seems it's going to be interesting to see what direction the Eagles go in. And then one more, this is kind of a tag and trade option here. Allen Robinson of the Bears. The Bears and Allen Robinson couldn't really reach the deal. Just the vibes you get from Allen Robinson. He might be going somewhere else. We don't really know yet. But I kind of get the feeling, it's pretty obvious. They haven't been able to reach a deal. Allen Robinson's been talking about they could have done it for so long. Maybe the Bears don't want to pay what he's asking for. Maybe he's asking for too much there. So the Bears could look to tag and trade him. They're not just going to let him get away. If they do, that'd be confusing on why they didn't trade him at the trade deadline. So they could tag and trade him. The tag's estimated to be around $15.4 million for receivers. That could go up. That's kind of the lowest it'll probably be. So in that range of $16 million perhaps. So tag and trade. The Bears, if you say, what's the value of Allen Robinson? We would probably say maybe a second-round pick, but it ends up going down a little bit if they tag and trade him because the team would have to, again, extend him to what he wants. The Bears, if they lost him in free agency, they would get a 2022 third-round compensatory pick. So a 2021 third round. If there's not a bidding war, if there's only one team interested, it could just be a third-round pick. So 2021 third instead of getting that 2022 third. It's a little bit better there. Maybe a third and a fifth, somewhere around there. Tag and trade for the Bears. Ravens, Colts, Patriots, Washington football team, Dolphins, teams that could use a receiver. Just the question is what teams would be willing to trade for a guy like this rather than draft him, because we see all these young studs, receivers in the draft. They're making impacts. Maybe they'd rather do that for the cheaper route. And then what team's going to want to pay him long term? So it really might narrow the list down, which might result in the Bears getting a decent amount less than what his actual value is, which I would say is probably around a second-round pick. So, again, it could end up being a third by itself. Who knows? If it's something under a third, I think they would just but will he play? Will he sign the franchise tag? That's kind of the question there. So, I think he wants that deal to stay with the Bears. So we'll see. But that's definitely a tag and trade candidate for sure. But yeah, that will do it. It's a lot of players. I think a good chunk of these guys will be brought up. I'm not saying a good chunk will actually be traded, but we'll see what happens there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You always can contact us pretty easy on Twitter. We're always talking there, so follow that. We got a bunch of free agency / offseason / draft content already on the channel. Like this video. A lot going on and a lot more to come. We have you covered. We even grade every single free agency signing in the offseason, so I can't wait for that. Can't wait for the draft. We got you covered for the Super Bowl as well. Please smash the like button, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.